Welcome everyone. I have started the recording for this event. We will get it posted in a few days on the AARP YouTube channel at youtube.com/@AARPNH1. So thank you for joining our AARP New Hampshire sponsored program with the Creative Feast. My name is Frances and I am your host today. I'm also a volunteer for AARP New Hampshire. If you have a question, we ask that you put it in the chat, and we welcome your questions and we will address them periodically throughout this demonstration. So Thanksgiving, as we all know, is next week, and today's cooking demonstration will show you how to make a delicious turkey for your Thanksgiving dinner. Today's event is part of a series with the Creative Feast, focusing on food and its impact on healthy living. AARP has been promoting the health and well-being of older Americans for over 60 years. In New Hampshire, we work to bring you informative, innovative, and fun virtual events like today's online cook-along demonstration as a means of connection and inclusion. We also have numerous healthy living resources on our website, which include staying fit, wellness, and longevity, and information on healthy eating, as well as staying sharp. There's something for everyone. So Chef Liz built her cooking career in various Boston and catering restaurant venues. After starting her family, she re-entered the food world as a cooking instructor and developed Liz Barber's Creative Feast. So Chef Liz has appeared on New Hampshire's WMUR Cook's Corner. Her cooking demonstrations and recipes and herb gardens have been featured in various publications, including Where Women Cook, New Hampshire's Magazine, the Nashua Telegraph, and the Hippo Press. All her programs focus on the premise that we are healthier when we cook at home. So we hope you enjoyed today's program. Okay, Liz, teach us about that turkey.
Great. Thank you so much, Frances, and welcome everybody to my kitchen studio here in Hollis, New Hampshire. It's a pleasure to be with you, especially at this great holiday. Thanksgiving is really a wonderful time for family. People are traveling across the country, visiting with friends and family. Some people are staying home. And so I try to take this holiday, which I think is probably one of the most nerve-wracking holidays on getting the meal right. And that's because turkey is not a great cooking bird. It's just that we've got our legs that take so long. We have the breasts that we don't want to overcook. You want to get it perfect for everybody. How do you get the turkey done? And then you've got all of the fixings that need to pop into the oven at the last minute. How do you prep in advance? Because, you can't do it all in one day. So we'll have a little bit of that discussion. I want to share with you our recipes. So why don't I'm going to share my screen first. And let me see. I need to have my sharing opened up on the main screen. So for some reason my sharing isn't working, Frances. So if you could open that up, that would be great. Let's see if that works. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go first to my website. And this is thecreativefeast.com. And for all of you, if you go to where it says Food and Fun, the recipe blog, I've created these pages just for AARP over the years. And this is from our 2025 series. And then, of course, we're going to scroll down to November. You can get a peek at December. We're going to be doing some desserts. So keep that in mind if you're going to register for next month's class. And then here we have our roast turkey with pan sauce. So that is what we're going to be doing today. I would also like to share with you a slide presentation because I want to talk to you a little bit about what turkey do I buy? Do you buy one from the grocery store? Should you buy a frozen one? Should you buy a fresh one? Do I buy a heritage bird? So why don't we sneak over to that. And just so you know, I've already got a turkey cooked and ready for us. So there's no worries about you missing what the turkey's going to look like. We're going to prep the turkey that I have here, get that ready as if it were going to go into the oven. I'm going to show you how to make the pan sauce together. And then I will cut into the roasted turkey that I did earlier today. But for now, let me share with you that slide presentation. It's going to be very quick, and I just want to take you through that. We're going to start that from the beginning. Let's get that going. And there we go. So Thanksgiving dinner, as I mentioned to you, is filled with a lot of anxiety, especially for somebody who's never done it before. But I always like to reassure you that nobody ever gets it right, except for those people who have been doing it for years and they have their method. But let's first talk about our turkey. Now, these photographs are taken from a event that I went to where somebody invited me. They had about 30 chickens that needed to be slaughtered and dressed, and they invited me to come one year. And it was quite an experience, but I have to say the turkeys were much more beautiful than I ever expected. The color is just beautiful. What you're looking at, this is a broad-breasted white. This is what you typically find at the grocery store. They are bred to be quite large, and in a very short period of time, we're going to talk about that. But I just wanted to see how beautiful these birds are. This happened to be at somebody's home, and so you can see they were all out in the beautiful sunshine. And then we all set to work, and it took us pretty much all day to do this. We had several people with us. It was really quite an interesting event. So let's talk about, what turkey do I buy? Fresh, frozen, heritage? Do you buy locally, grocery store? What do we do? So we're going to talk about the broad-breasted white. As I mentioned, this is the most common turkey that you're going to see. You will see a lot of backdoor turkey, farmers, they use this bird. It is engineered. This is designed to mature quickly between 12 and 18 weeks. It seems quite astounding that you can get a 24, 30-pound turkey from chick all the way to slaughter in 18 weeks, but that is the case. The average hen size is about 25 pounds. That's quite large. And the quick growth leads to less flavor. It's something to think about. Depending on who your farmer is, you may have a local farmer who is adding some really great things to the turkey feed. That's worth the question. Always know your farmers, know where you're buying locally raised meat, vegetables, fruits from, and then you'll know what's the secret sauce that they're using. Also, these turkeys have low fat content, and that's what leads to the dry turkey meat. So that's why I don't want people to be upset if their turkey comes out dry. There's a lot of things that you have to do to prevent that from happening. We're going to talk about that, but these birds are inherently difficult to cook. They don't have a lot of fat on them. It's not like cooking a bottom round steak that may have, a lot of fat made, grown into it. The turkeys tend to have very low fat, so their meat does tend to be dry. So again, we're going to talk about how you can prevent that. Now, these heritage birds, this is something that has become more popular in the last 15 years or so. And these turkeys, they mature slowly. So between 24 and 30 weeks, this is more natural for a turkey. The average hen size is 12 pounds. So if you're looking for a heritage bird, expect that they're going to be lower in weight. However, there tends to be more dark meat, which gives more flavor. Don't turn down that dark meat from your turkey legs, even from those grocery store turkeys that you're buying. It is very, very much more flavorful, and that's where you tend to get a little bit more of the fat in there. Heritage birds are not necessarily organic or free range. Again, this is critical to know, where am I getting my turkey from? What are their practices for caring for these birds on the way to market? And can I buy them locally? Heritage birds cost more to raise because they take longer, so they require more feed, they required more care. That's part of the reason why they are more expensive, so be prepared for that. The cost per pound is higher. And if you are planning that you would like to buy a turkey, a heritage bird that is locally raised, even a regular, white, broad-breasted white, you need to get those orders in fast. So some of you may have already missed the deadline in your local area, but it is always worth going on Facebook, contacting your local farmer now, asking, do you have any turkeys left? Many will, and you can get that order in. And that's, oh, fresh versus frozen. Whoops, let me get back to that. So fresh versus frozen, this is another really good question. Now, fresh turkeys must be refrigerated and cooked within 2 to 3 days of purchase, but they don't require a thawing time. Now, if you don't have, an extra refrigerator, or you don't have refrigerator space to thaw a turkey, I think it's best to buy fresh. I did the 2 turkeys that I'm cooking today, they were frozen. And so you need to give yourself plenty of time to thaw them out. The frozen turkeys tend to be less expensive due to the ease of shipping and storage. So that's why you'll see them. I just saw them for 59 cents a pound. So it's so much easier for them to ship just huge frozen containers worth of turkeys, and they pop them into the freezer, and it's easy for the grocery store. So that really helps. They also, with those frozen turkeys, they do have a consistent quality due to the freezing. Give yourself plenty of time to thaw your turkey in the refrigerator, 5 hours for every pound of the turkey's weight. But I have to tell you, I left my turkeys frozen. I put them into my refrigerator. They still were not thawed after 4 days. So keep that in mind. Even after you thaw them, you can keep them in your refrigerator for a few days. That's fine. So keep that in mind. Also, don't make the mistake that I did a few years ago. A friend had a freezer that she kept in her garage, and she said, "Oh, I'll thaw this turkey for you." Well, it was very cold out in the garage, and so that refrigerator did not thaw in the 5 days. So I ended up with a frozen turkey, and I really struggled. My brother had to run down to a local farm stand who happened to have a few fresh birds, and we cooked that for the day. So we were able to recover. So make sure that you build in that thawing time. All right. And I think that is pretty much, that's done for my presentation. I just wanted to share that little bit of information for you, and get us back on track for this, for our program. So let's stop our share here, and we'll get back on track. So again, if you are thinking of, if you have a fresh turkey, remember that's got to stay in your refrigerator. You want to buy that closer to 2 or 3 days before you're ready to prepare it. Frozen turkeys need several days to thaw out in your refrigerator. So keep that in mind. Now, let's look at our turkey here. So we're just going to do a basic roast of a turkey. That is the preparation on the recipe. But I wanted to show you one way that you can prepare your turkey to get it in the oven to cut down on the cooking time. Now, typically turkey takes between, I think, 13 to 15 minutes per pound to cook. So make sure that you have that cooking time, that amount of time in your head. So I did a 12 to 14 pound turkey. It took about 2 hours at 325 degrees. The key thing to help with help prevent your turkey from drying out is letting it rest. You've got to let the juices flow back into the meat before you cut into it. Now, I took my turkey out that I prepared today. I took it out of the oven at about 1 o'clock. So when it comes time to cut that, we're going to see, is it still warm? I'm going to say it's still going to be warm. So Having your turkey out on the counter after it's been roasted for about 40 minutes to an hour, that is safe time. That will give it the opportunity to get all those juices back into the meat, and then you want to slice it. Another way that you can buy a turkey that will help you to have a more moist bird is to buy one that has a saline, essentially a brine injected into it. You can buy those at the grocery store. Really look at the ingredients, see if that's something that you want to be, eating. Some people don't want anything in their meat. Certainly, if you're going to buy a farm raised turkey, they're not going to have a brine injected into it, so you want to, be aware of that. But the brine does help because it's salted, so it helps with the flavor, but it also helps the turkey to have to maintain its moisture. You could brine your turkey. You can do a wet brine, which typically is done for about 24 hours in the refrigerator, or you can do a dry brine. That's another way to do it, where you're taking seasoning and spices and you're putting it all over the bird, and you let that bird sit unwrapped in your refrigerator, and that forms a nice, flavorful skin, and you could do your turkey that way. People do roast their turkeys in a lot of different fashions, where it's high heat first and then low heat. I prefer a consistent temperature so that I'm not fussing with the oven. I also like to have, you can have thermometers. This is to have a thermometer that is on the outside of your oven is really great. This will then go into the turkey, and I'll show you where to place that. But the timer can be set so that it actually reaches temperature. So we're going to be looking for 165 degrees. So I can set that on here, and then the alarm will go off when the turkey reaches that point, and I can pull it out of the oven. I always recommend this type of a thermometer for you. Some of you have ovens that come with the meat probe already in the oven. Make sure that you use that. It's a great tool. You can also use an instant read thermometer, which is one of those that you put right into the breast meat. You take the turkey out, put it in the breast meat, you read it, then you remove it and put the turkey back in if you need some more time. And then, of course, you can use the old-fashioned, what my mom had, which was a turkey, a thermometer that you put in, keep it in while the turkey is cooking, and then you can take a peek at it. So those are a few ways to check that out. Francis, do you have any questions for me at this point?
They did say, when you had your presentation up, they said, so is that why turkey and chicken doesn't taste as good as it used to because of the way that they're feeding them and having them grow so quickly?
Yes, that's a very good point. They're bred like chickens to be very heavy on the breast meat. Often can cause issues where these birds are so heavy they can tip over. And then, you can have birds that are dying because of the weight has suffocated them. That's how crazy this is. But, I think I personally like the dark meat that has more flavor, and mixing it with the white meat on the platter is a great way to go. But yes, your point is well taken. When we are engineering animals for specific purposes, it's going to degrade the quality of either the meat or the flavor, or something's got to give. So, yeah. Any other questions?
And they said, what do you think of pre-basted turkeys?
So that's what I was mentioning before, was the idea that these are injected with some kind of a saline that's a maybe salt and broth solution. I prefer not to do that because I'm not 100% sure what they're putting in there. If anything says natural flavorings, it's not really natural. It's some kind of a chemical design of flavorings. So keep that in mind. I had never thought about this until a few years ago. You actually have to look at your turkey that you're getting at the grocery store and see what the ingredients are. I thought it was just turkey, but no, many of them are pre-basted. It's all about adding flavor and helping to keep moisture in. But if you cook your turkey well and season it well from the beginning, you really should not need that at all. But
And
I have to say, it's difficult to buy a frozen turkey that is not pre-basted.
Exactly. One more
Yeah.
question. If I make my turkey the day before, how do I keep it moist when I'm reheating it?
So I would set up some kind of a steam option for for reheating. So can you get a roasting pan with a smaller plate in it and lining it in water, putting it on the stove with a lid so that you can steam the meat? That will help to keep the moisture in. That is definitely the way I would go. Okay.
What
All right.
timer
So,
what's
yeah.
the name of the timer you use on the outside of the
Let's
oven?
see. This one is ThermoWorks. And there are many different brands. So this was just one that my husband purchased, and we really like this. You can use it outdoors, indoors, but this stays on the outside of the oven so I can read the temperature. And then we have the probe that goes into the turkey, and that goes, of course, on the inside. So yeah, that's really helpful.
Would you do a small bird in an air fryer?
Air air fryers are tough because they cook at a very high temperature. I do have a friend who loves to do her turkey in an instant pot, and then when it comes out, because it's so moist, she then takes it and puts it under the broiler to crisp up the skin. You can also do that in a crock pot. I have another friend who does hers in a crock pot. So you can do it that way. Yeah, lots of ways. But let's get started on this turkey so that we can, get through the basics of how do I get this ready to go in the oven. So here, this is my store-bought turkey. This was a frozen turkey that I thawed out. It took me a few, like 4 days to thaw that out in the refrigerator. And even then, I went in to take the innards because they will say on the package, does it come with the neck? Does it come with the gizzards? You want to pull those out as soon as it's thawed enough that you can pull them out, because if you don't, they're like little ice cubes in there and they'll keep your turkey cold. So make sure you take them out. So this is the neck. A lot of people save this for, and I'm going to put this over on the stove, to make a broth. There's no reason to throw these things out. They usually have the gizzard, the heart. You can add those to your broth. I wouldn't add the liver. That would not be good in a broth. So I would not do that. But you can cook those up separately. For me, I'm going to cook them up and then I'm going to, or people give them to their dogs. That's a great thing. If you have somebody who has a dog that likes raw meat, ask them if they'd like that. That would be a huge help for them. Now, the other thing about this turkey to see is that this comes with one of these automatic thermometers in it. I take those out and use my own. I just don't trust this to give me the best temperature. So I toss that. I think every cook should have a reliable meat thermometer of some type, and that's what you should be relying on. Okay. The other thing is that this one came where it's all together, held together, and it's held together by this little plastic thing. Again, not something I want to be cooking with. So it takes a little bit of strength to yank that out, get rid of that. Okay. Is it food safe? I'm sure they say it's food safe, but I don't want to be roasting a turkey with a bunch of plastic in. If you have cotton twine or something, you can retie the legs. I don't do that, but you certainly can. Now, what I do is I tuck the turkey wings behind. That helps to keep the tips from getting too dark and also opens up this area, the breast area, for cooking. Now, the turkey that I prepared for you already, I prepared in this state, the way this turkey looks now, but I want to show you something, okay? I want to show you how to do a spatchcock. So I'm just, for the sake of this demonstration, going to show you just a little something different that you can do. It opens up the whole turkey so that the cooking time is cut down significantly. Because if you think about it, if your turkey is whole, and if you're stuffing it with stuffing, or in this case, our recipe calls for putting onions and some lemon in there and garlic, the more you stuff in there, the longer it will take to cook. So I'm going to show you how to break this turkey down. So we just turned it over. I've got an amazing pair of, these are hard shears. So they are not your typical kitchen shears. These are made for cutting through bone. I got them on Amazon. I think I paid $15. It doesn't even say the brand on it, but what I'm looking for is something to cut through chicken bone, turkey bone. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut down on either side of the spine so that we can open this up. So you can see the way these are designed, you can really, it really gives you some leverage and you can cut right through this bone. So I'm going to go through there. Francis, feel free to ask any questions while I'm getting my shears through this.
Okay, so they said, should you save the necks as well? And so, you know, when you make a soup with the carcass, can you throw the necks in there as well?
Yes. And the great thing about the necks is they do have some cartilage in them. So that is going to make for a really nice broth.
And
So
are
yeah,
you going to show them how to insert a thermometer?
yes. Now that you've asked, I will be sure to show you how to do that. Yes. All right. Now I'm just going down from the top, the bottom I went up, and the top I'm going to go down. Do watch your fingers because these are really strong scissors. Now getting through that one final leg bone there. There we go. So I've got that cut in half there, cut open. And then I can go down the other side. And you can certainly leave it like that, open like this. I'm cutting down the other side because for, you know, if I want to make a stock, this part, this backbone is going to be perfect for my stock. Right in there. This is where having good hand strength is really important. We all have to watch that as we get older to make sure our grip strength stays intact. There we go. All right, now I've got this. This will go in with to make my broth. Pop it over there. Now I've got this chicken in half, or this turkey in half. And now it's going to be, I want to turn it over and I want to try to get this as flat as I can. So I'm pushing out the legs here. Okay. And now you want to see if you can break that breastbone. If you can't do it, don't worry. It takes a lot of strength. And I heard it crunch. Give it a good smack. And that flattens that right out. And that's what I'm looking for in order to get this nice and flat. Now, this is what your spatchcock turkey will look like. And you may have already done this with a chicken. It's just a little bit larger with a turkey. So we have that all set. I'm just going to rip my hands off and we're going to go ahead and dry this and we're going to season it. Now, you're going to have a nice size roasting pan. So I have this great roasting pan. Certainly, if you're going to do, you know, a 24-pound turkey, maybe somebody else is going to have to help you with that. But you can, as I said before, the first turkey I roasted, I did roast it as a whole turkey. I just wanted to show you how to do this. And we can continue on with the recipe just as it's written with the ingredients. So I have my roasting pan here. And we are going to get our turkey ready to go in. But one of the things that on the recipe, it suggests is maybe you'd like to put some vegetables in the bottom of your roasting pan. So I love the roasted vegetables that I get with my turkey. So I just added I had a huge carrot. I've got some celery here. And I'm going to cut up an onion and we're going to add that in. And these are aromatics, but I love to serve these with the turkey because, you know, a lot of people like roasted vegetables, but they're already roasted for you. They're roasted in the turkey juices. All right. Francis, do we have any other questions as I'm getting these veggies all set?
Yes, we do. So
Great.
would you suggest that we, use garlic cloves or minced garlic and rub the skin or under the skin?
Well, I'm going to show you the herb butter that I'm going to make, and that will go underneath the skin of the turkey. So I'll show you how to do that. And I suggest that you don't, if you can avoid buying pre-chopped garlic, avoid that. It's very strong and you don't know how long ago it was chopped. It's better to chop your own for a fresher flavor. You don't want that garlic to overwhelm your dish, and that is can be the case with the pre-chopped garlic.
And we had another question is, so when you cut the turkey in half and made that, I can never say that word right, spatchcock, is that
Spatchcock, yeah.
is that the same as butterflying?
Yes. Yep. Same thing.
And would you recommend a convection oven
I
to
use a
roast this?
convection setting. Yeah, I use the convection setting because I love the idea that it's going to be nice and crispy, the skin. So I do use that. I'm just going to set this aside and we're going to make our herb butters to put it in underneath our skin. So uh, let me just get that all set. So I do have here our ingredients for our herb butter. So I've got 1 stick of unsalted butter. And then we're going to add, I've got my garlic. We're going to chop that. Let me just set this aside here. There we go. So let's chop our garlic. This is really easy, certainly. Just give it a good smack. This is all fresh garlic. Doesn't have to be difficult. And for those of you who don't like chopping garlic, I love to show my favorite little tool. This is a garlic rocker. They're pretty popular on at different kitchen stores, but also you can buy them off of Amazon. Very easy. There's no brand name that I think of, but you want to make sure that it's all it's metal because you're going to put a lot of pressure on it. So you don't want to do a plastic one. That's kind of cheap. All right. So here's our garlic. And we're going to rock that. That will mince the garlic for us. I have my butter at room temperature to help me make this little paste. And then I'm going to show you how to insert that underneath the skin. Now, we're going to be adding to this, once we get our turkey all set, we're going to be adding some broth. So that would be a great way to make some turkey broth is, remember we saved the neck and we saved the gizzards and all of that. That can go in to make a turkey broth to help with this dish in advance, right? Instead of waiting until the turkey comes out of the oven, we want to add a little bit of turkey broth to the pan when it's roasting. So that is a good way to do that. Now, this recipe called for some rosemary and some thyme and some parsley. So I still have my rosemary from the summer. Those of you who are living in warmer climates, I'm sure you're growing these as beautiful perennials, but here, these are definitely annuals for us. I do bring my rosemary in so that I can keep it going all winter if I can keep it alive. I also have a pretty extensive herb garden, so I do dry my thyme. So you can you can use dried thyme if that's all you have. But I was able to get a few little. I went out into my November winter garden and was able to find some thyme. I can even get some sage too. That is available. So. But I'm not going to do sage in this one. I know it's typical, but I'm not always a big fan of sage. I prefer the rosemary, so this is a nice way to bring that in. We're going to use about a tablespoon of each. Don't be shy with your herbs. That's going to be really critical for your flavor. Frances, did you have any other questions?
Of course we do.
Okay.
So, you said you could use a convection oven. So in your instructions, it says 325 to set your oven at 325. Would you change that temp for a convection oven?
That is, I get that kind of a question often, and I personally never change that. My convection oven, though, I don't have a brand new one. If you're going to use a convection oven, you can start that. What I would do is rather than changing the temperature, I would look at the time. So with our thermometer, once your turkey reaches its finish time, then you're going to take it out. So keep it at that 325. You're just going to take it out a little bit sooner. The other thing to remember is with the convection oven, it's all about pushing that hot air over the turkey. And we don't want to take that temperature down because we still want to have that nice hot air roasting that turkey. It will just take a little less time. So rather than adjusting the temperature of the oven, adjust your cooking time. And I think some people say it's about 25% less, but I always go with temperature rather than, playing the guessing game with that. Now I'm just chopping my herbs up nice and small.
So
What other questions do you have? Yeah.
So we had a question about, do you wash your turkey because you say pat it dry? And when you put your turkey in the oven, which you're going to be doing soon, do you use cheesecloth or aluminum foil over the breast to prevent it from drying?
I don't use any of that. We're roasting this at 325 degrees, which is a pretty moderate temperature. So your turkey is not going to dry out from that. So I'm less worried about that. And then the basting is coming from under the skin, and I'm going to show you how to do that with our butter. So that should help. That fat from the butter should help keep that moisture. And then we're doing a long, slow roast, which is also very helpful, as opposed to doing a quicker roast. And then, of course, as I said before, I'm just zesting my lemon in here, is we're going to let our turkey rest for at least 40 minutes. But I'll tell you now, I've got one resting here for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I am not worried about this turkey drying out. Resting time is critical. Don't rush that. And, sometimes people are like, well, what if it is cold by the time I take it out? Well, let me tell you this. I don't know about you, but anytime I serve turkey on a buffet, I don't serve it in a chafing pan that keeps it warm. You can, but by the time everybody's gone through the buffet line, it's not the turkey that is going to stay warm, but the gravy that you're going to make. That's the key thing to keep warm, because then that will get everything nice and warm when you pour that hot gravy on top. So that's what I think about and how I'm going to, serve this and keep this nice and moist. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mash this all together. What other questions do you have, Francis?
Do you wash the turkey first?
You absolutely want to rinse that off first. And then the key is that we want to dry it so that we can then have we don't want to have that moisture on the skin. We want to have that nice dry skin. We're going to season the outside of this as well. So we're going to do that. Let me just show you. I'm going to get ready to put my butter in, and I'm going to turn this just so you can get a better view. So what I'm doing is I want to get underneath this turkey. Oh, we'll turn it this way. Underneath this turkey skin so that I can insert and push in my butter. Now, you'll notice when you lift up the skin, there's actually a membrane that's holding the skin to the turkey breast. I'm trying to get underneath that. Now, what you can do, let me see if I have this. I have a little small spatula that I'm going to push through, and it loosens that membrane so that I can then get my room temperature butter herb butter in underneath. So I'm pushing all the way through and I'm loosening that. I'm keeping the center part attached so that the skin doesn't pull away from the turkey breast in the cooking because it will shrink. But if I take my little rubber spatula, I'm pushing through that membrane that's holding the skin in. It's just creating a pocket for me to insert my butter. And you can go all the way back, and you can get in under the legs if you want to. You can come in under the legs if you want to give that a try. I was able to do that with my other turkey, but I'm just going to show you how to get this right in. Now we take our butter and we push that in. Remember, the butter's got to be room temperature. Put it under the skin, and then I can take my fingers and just pull it to the top of the breast. And now it's going to be completely self-basting. And you're going to get all that wonderful herb flavor with the butter on your breast meat. I'm just going to push that. I'm just pushing that back all the way up into the breast so you can see that butter, herb butter in there. And you can save some of it to kind of smear on the top. Do that. But you see how I'm pushing this back all the way into the breast meat, and then it'll help to baste that. All right. Now, before I put my butter on top here, I just want to take some paper towel, kind of pat this dry, press those legs down. You see, now I've exposed all of the skin, so this is going to get nice and dark in this preparation. And then we'll just take the top and smear some of that on there. And then anything that melts, of course, is going to go right into those wonderful pan juices below. Put that all on there. Don't miss a bit of that. And then I'm going to season with salt and pepper. That's very important because then for those of us who love to eat our turkey skin, we want to have that with salt and pepper. I'm going to get this butter off my hands. Francis, do we have any questions while I'm getting ready to season?
So there was a question on, what do you think of roasting bags?
I have never used one. And I think that if that is something that has always worked for you, definitely do that. It will keep in moisture, right? Because it traps it almost like steaming. I'm curious, for those of you who have used a roasting bag, do you then open it up to finally brown up the turkey, or does it do it by itself? That's a curiosity that's a question I have. Just so you know,
I have used one, and
yeah,
it browns right in the bag.
there you go. And I think you should use whatever works best for you if you've ever tried them. I think it's probably one of those tried and true. Francis, you've always enjoyed that. Has that worked really well for
It
you?
has worked for me, and it makes it a little bit more moist because sometimes I'm just busy that day,
Yes.
and I have a lot going on. So I
Yeah.
found that kind of helps me maintain it better.
Yeah. No, I think again, I'm showing you one way to do it, but if you feel most confident doing it that way, you can. But you can do this herb butter under the skin in that roasting bag, and that would
Yes.
just add another dimension of flavor. So
And
now,
we had
yep.
another one.
Mhm.
When you take your turkey out of the refrigerator after you've let it defrost, do you let it come up to room temperature before you do all this, or do you just start with it like right from the fridge?
If you let it sit on the counter, like when I do a roast or something like that, I will let it sit on the counter for about an hour, and that will kind of help bring it closer to room temperature. We don't want to leave it out for too long because, of course, we don't want to take any chance of any kind of contamination to happen. But certainly you can do that, and that will just cut down on your cooking time. So whatever you're comfortable with. in 2 hours, I don't think that you would have any issue. This has been sitting on my counter, for about 2 hours. I'm not nervous, but everybody has to do what's comfortable for them. I also have a clean kitchen. I try to keep everything, from cross contamination and all of that. So I think a lot of this is, it is being smart, but also having a sense of, what am I comfortable with? Now I'm going to put I've got my onion here. I'm sorry, my lemon here. And then we're going to cut our garlic. That is going to help to season our broth. This one I'm going to wrap up and I'm going to roast that separately so I can serve that. But this is going to go in typically, the recipe calls for you putting this into the body of the turkey. We're just going to lay it down in our pan, and that will help to season up those wonderful juices, which is the whole point of that. We've got our onion, we've got our lemon, and now it's time to put our turkey on. So we're going to pop this on there, just like that. Now, this is a little small for the purposes of putting this in as a spatchcock turkey, but I'm not afraid. I'm going to stick those legs in and I'm going to roast this up. And then this turkey is going to go to my daughter's house to help feed her young family. So there. So it's open in the back, and I've shoved it into that roasting pan pretty well. So that's going to be ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and I will pop this in the oven a little bit later, but right now we're going to get ourselves over to the stove in a few minutes, and we're going to make our gravy. Oh, one last thing is we're going to put 2 cups of broth into our pan, and that will help to add moisture, but also to add to those final drippings. Okay, so this is ready to go into the oven. So we're going to keep that over here. And what did I want to do? Oh, I want to pull out our turkey so I can show this to you. All right. Now, I'm just going to, I have to mess with my camera. There we go. Okay, so notice that what I have on my turkey, it came out of the oven. I wrapped it in foil, all right? And then I put a towel on top to keep it warm. And so it's been sitting in this warm little package now for probably about 2 hours. So I'm going to take my towel off and going to remove my foil. And I don't know if you can see it, but the steam just is rising off the top of the turkey. Now we're going to remove that, and I'm going to get a cutting board. And I just, I know that my turkey drippings often go all over the place. So I like to take a towel and put it under the cutting board where I am placing my turkey so that the drippings get caught. So we're going to lift our turkey up. It's still hot. Right there. Now, here are my wonderful drippings with my roasted vegetables. Remember, this one was prepared exactly as the recipe called for. And now I have my pan drippings. Now, what we want to do is to be able to separate them. And I don't have a separator. So the tip for this is take a plastic bag, and I put it into this tall cylinder to hold the plastic bag. And I'm just going to pour this in, and the fat will rise to the top. And our wonderful drippings will go to the bottom. Whoops. Oh, I'm having a catastrophe with my turkey. I told you it's dripping all over the place. So I'm going to just pull this back and get a towel right here so it doesn't drip down onto the floor. Then I'd go slipping all over the place. So there we go. Okay. Now, here are the vegetables that we have. So I'm just going to set those aside. Now you can make your pan sauce right in here if you'd like, but I'm going to do this in a separate pan at the stove. And I don't know if you can see, let's see if we lift up our bag, right? Then what's happened is my fat is at the top and my pan drippings are at the bottom. So we're going to see if this will work. I'm just going to do the Ziploc. I'm going to pull out a corner of my bag and I'm going to cut that so that it allows my drippings to come out slowly, hopefully, and leave the fat so that I can cook with the fat. And if it doesn't work, I'm not going to cry. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Oh, something. Okay. There go all of the juices, but keeping my fat in the bag. I got a little bit of a mess here, but that's okay. That's why we have plenty of towels. There's all my fat in there. And I'm going to grab a little glass so that I can do the final bit of separation. I'm going to get that into our pan. And it's mostly all fat, so that's good. But again, if you don't have that, you can use butter. All right. Hopefully I haven't created too much of a mess. So Francis, we have our spot on our stove, so we're ready to go. We're working that out. I've got my fat. Bring this over here. And then we'll have our extra broth ready to go, about 2 cups worth. And then here, we're just going to take, I've got my ladle, and I'm going to use my turkey fat here. And then this is going to be very simple. I'm going to heat this up. Let that fat get hot. And then we're going to add our flour and whisk that in. We're going to do a little bit at a time so that we cook the flour, which is really important. You want to cook that floury flavor out. And then we're going to go ahead and finish it with our broth, and then we'll be all set. Now, while that's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and take out the rest of these vegetables. We've got our onion here inside. And if you all can stick around for a little bit, I know we're kind of running tight on time. We're going to finish that sauce together, and then I'm going to carve my turkey, and I would love for you to see how that goes. My gosh, this is so beautiful. Did you see how beautiful the top of the skin on this turkey is? It's really perfect. All right. Now let's get we want to have a whisk handy. Bring that to a quick simmer. I've got about 1/4 cup of flour. Gonna get that in there. Again, the key thing is that your flour needs to cook to get that floury flavor away. And this is so very simple. Just let that cook. Move it around in your pan for a little bit, about 30 seconds or so. Again, cooking off that flour. And then we're going to go ahead and add our broth. stirring as we go. We're going to pull that flour that's stuck to the bottom off. Nice and slow. Nothing should be fast here because I want to work those lumps out. There we go. And remember that this broth that came right out of that pan is going to be really flavorful with all of that herb butter that escaped from out of from under the skin. And there we go. And then you're going to cook this, let this simmer. Now, if you would like to add some herbs to this, you should feel free to do that. If you'd like to add that little bit of sage that you like, this would be the time to add some fresh chopped sage to that. You could also, if you wanted to, you could do, add a quarter cup or so of apple cider to this, which is one of my favorites to do. All right, and now we're just going to let that simmer, and that's thickening up. And again, it continues. I'm going to lower that heat down, continues to get that flavor from our broth. Now we've got our turkey, and let me just hit that turkey one more time because I still have a lot of wonderful juices stuck in there. This is just, talk about a moist turkey. Okay, there we go. Now, let's move this over to the big cutting board. I'm going to stir my gravy one more time. Beautiful. Again, you want to cook that out. You want to get rid of that floury flavor. I have a little bit extra here. Let's bring that in. That's going to add a lot of great flavor. Perfect. And I'm just going to turn that off. Now we're going to take this off our cutting board here so that we can slice this up. Now, what I like to suggest for you is that you get yourself a nice slicing knife. I happen to have one. This is from Victorinox, nice and thin, very sharp. And then we're going to go ahead and cut our turkey. So what I like to do first, and this is just my method, everybody has their own, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the wings, but cut the leg. Okay. And here, maybe a chef's knife is going to help me do that a little bit better. And we're going to get right down to the joint and pull that right off. And there is our leg. And then you would do the other side. And then we're going to come back for the breast. And I always remove the breast rather than cutting it onto the turkey. It's just so much easier. So I'm going to cut down on one side of the breastbone. I can feel that breastbone with the tip of my knife and cut all the way down like that. And then come at the bottom. And with a little bit of help, I can move that right off the bone. Now remember, this has been sitting here for about 2 hours. And I'm sure in the camera, you can see there is steam coming out of this turkey. And I even have a lot of moisture right in here. You can just see that giving off all that moisture. So I think that having the turkey rest for that good amount of time proved to us that wrapped in foil with a towel on top, it can last nice and hot on your counter for 2 hours. And that helps to bring the moisture in. And then with a beautiful slicing knife, you can see how gorgeous that is. And I've got that line underneath the skin with all of that herb butter tucked in there. Delicious. Now, Frances, we're coming to the end. I'm going to put this on a plate. Do we have more questions? I'm happy to stick around for plenty of questions. So don't feel, it's not, I'm not going to cut you off. It's up to Frances how long we're going to keep this going.
Okay, so we do have quite a few questions. So some people say, how long do you let the turkey rest before carving it?
Well, as I just said, this one rested for 2 hours. Now, typically they said about 40 minutes.
Right.
But I let mine rest for a couple hours. It gives me so much time to get things done in the oven and, all the things that I need to warm up for the meal. So take advantage of a long resting time if you can.
Okay. Then they said, can you paint the outer skin with melted butter and baking powder to brown it?
Well, it sounds to me like you've done this before. And if that works for you, I think you should do that. But did you notice how brown mine got with just salt and pepper? So there are so many ways to do it. And I think I appreciate that everybody has something that works for them. I have a friend who goes to the grocery store and she buys turkey legs and cooks those up the night before so that she has all of her turkey broth ready. And then she serves those legs in addition to the whole turkey. So everybody's got their secrets to how to make this meal work out just right.
They
Okay.
also want to know where you inserted the thermometer and how you did it.
Oh, okay. I promised that and then I failed. So let's bring this back and let's look at okay, so let's look at how we're going to do that. So if you're inserting the probe, what you want to do is you want to do it into the breast meat, go all the way in until you hit the bone, and then pull out like, a quarter to a half an inch. You don't want the probe resting on the bone because the bone will heat up faster and it will give you a bad reading. You want to pull it back out just a little bit, like half, if you push it in, pull it halfway out. So it's sitting in that raw meat alone without touching the bone. And that's it. Okay. And then you set it to the temperature that you want it to be finished at, which is 165 degrees. Okay.
Okay. So when you take your turkey out of the oven, are you leaving it in the pan or are you putting it on a cutting board?
I left it in my on the pan so that everything stayed nice and warm. However, if you want to make the gravy well in advance, you can take it off, cover it, take your drippings out, and then put it back on the pan and just cover it. The key thing is that wherever you keep your turkey, make sure it's covered in foil and then you wrap it in a bath towel, and that will keep it warm.
When you're making your gravy, can you use cornstarch instead of flour?
You can. And some people think that it has a smoother consistency, but you can definitely do that.
And would you cook a turkey on a barbecue grill?
Oh, I have done that. I can't advise you on how to do that because that's not my something that I've done often. I love to smoke my turkeys, but that is many hours, many hours. So if I'm going to smoke a turkey, personally, I smoke it the day before and then I reheat it. And I usually do a regular turkey breast for people who don't like smoked turkey. And if you're
And
going to do, yeah, go ahead.
no, go
Sorry.
ahead, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't
If
mean to
you're
cut
going
you
to,
off.
that's right. If you're going to do it on a barbecue, it's always on indirect heat and it's generally low and slow.
And somebody said, when you pour hot liquids into plastic, like you did with the hot turkey gravy, the hot turkey basings, does it pick up plastic, you know?
Yes. I don't have a turkey separator, and so yes, you got me on that, and I have been very good. I got rid of all of my plastic containers. I have a couple left, and so yes, I think that is something to be aware of. That it will. I mean, you don't want to microwave in plastic. You don't want to cook in plastic.
Yep.
So, but this is just, if you don't have it, you can do this. On the other hand, if you don't have a separator, if you have the time, just put it into a glass container and the fat will rise to the top. And then you can just scoop that off. So yeah, you got me.
Let's see. Could you sprinkle the outside with poultry seasons, paprika, and garlic salt?
Yes, you can do whatever you want. This is the
It's your
nice thing.
turkey.
It's your
Yeah.
turkey. Or better yet, why not mix those things with softened butter and then try it under the skin? You
Right.
know, I do what works best for you. We put so much pressure on this holiday. I'm not telling you to drop all of the things that you've always done because, hey, look at this way. Your family is used to you cooking your turkey a certain way. You're always going to have that one person that's going to be like, why didn't you cook it the way you always do? Why'd you try this? But, give it a try. Give it a try.
And through the wonders of, this presentation, they did not see you basting the turkey, but you did say in your directions to baste the turkey several times throughout
It
cooking.
it did, but I didn't.
Right, because we didn't see you do it because you
I did, but
already
I
had them
honestly
done.
I didn't baste it. Even the one that I already made,
Yep.
right? I did not baste. So you can get this wonderful result without basting, just so you
And
know,
and like I said, I use a bag and you don't really have to baste because it's all inside the bag.
because
So
it's
would
almost steamed inside the bag. Yeah.
right. And somebody said, would you put stuffing inside the turkey?
I don't. And I don't because uh, it adds a lot of cooking time and I it has the most opportunity to have bacteria.
Okay.
Okay, so I personally do not. When I cook, when I make stuffing, I actually make my stuffing several days in advance, and I don't cook it. I prepare it, and you can go to my website, and I do have a stuffing recipe where you can get it all set, put it into, a baking dish, put it in your freezer, and then the day you're going to make your stuffing, take it out and just pour in turkey stock, and it makes it really simple. Um, but I don't. My mother used to make it in the turkey, maybe it was my mother, but it always came out looking like a football and it was always very wet and moist. And I never liked that. You know how you get that memory of something and you're like, I'm not going to do that. And so I just do it separately and I love it. I like the way it comes out.
Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to answer somebody that I know the answer to, so I don't have to ask you. So
Oh,
somebody, you know how you pre-browned your gravy in the hot in the turkey fat? Somebody asked me about pre-brown, pre-brown your flour. Somebody asked me about pre-brown flour for the gravy, like Cajun, like they do in the Cajun country. So have you ever
okay.
heard of that?
So yeah, I'm guessing that what you're referring to is creating a roux, which is exactly what I did. However, I didn't brown it as long as you would for a Cajun roux. And
Okay.
so for that, you've got to keep a real eye on it and moving it around, and it will brown up and it gets a real nutty flavor to it.
Yeah, I would think it would be delicious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's see. Do you brine your turkey first?
I did not brine it, but as we said earlier, I purchased a frozen turkey at the grocery store, and they had a salt solution that they injected the turkey with, which is all about making sure that when you get it home, it's going to be moist. So they do that. It's hard to buy a turkey at the grocery store, a mass produced turkey like a Purdue or this was a Jennie-O or something like that, that does not have the brining already. So it's already in there. But again, if you buy your turkey from a local farmer or you order a heritage bird, find out Does it have that brine in it? Chances are it doesn't, but you have to check if it's pre-wrapped. There are ingredients. Even chicken often has a salt solution on it, and we don't want that. So read the ingredients.
Okay, couple more questions.
Okay,
Um, they want to know what your thermometer brand was. I think you said that already, but I don't remember. So,
it is Thermo Works.
okay. And when you call a turkey heritage, what do you mean by that?
So those turkeys, as you may have missed the slide presentation I had before. So those turkeys are not bred to grow in from chick to adult in 18 weeks. Heritage birds are often birds that the I'm sorry, the broad-breasted white turkey has been mass produced all over our country. Most turkey producers on mass levels, they use this type of turkey, right? That's what they raise because they're designed to have a lot of breast meat on them, and they can grow them up to be 24 pounds, depending on how long, how they're feeding them. Heritage birds tend to be birds that are not genetically altered in that way, and they tend to have more dark meat. So, but you will see on the package, it will say heritage bird. Now, do I think it's worth the money? Uh, it can be if that's important to you. I would much rather go to my local farm stand. If he has a broad-breasted white chicken or turkey, I'm good with that as long as I know how did you raise it? What food did you feed it? Can I see, these things for people, it's important to different degrees. I love supporting my local farmer. I have a farm stand down the street. They raise broad-breasted white turkeys, but they don't inject them with anything. I know that they have been raised and slaughtered within days of my purchase. That's important to me. So, and I'm supporting him. So those are the kinds of things to weigh. I think my brother-in-law once ordered a heritage bird that came frozen, etc. Was it a great bird? No, it was okay, but it had a lot of dark meat in it. Anything else?
Geez, there I was talking to you, and I forget to turn my
Oh,
microphone on. So
okay.
if you're buying from a local place and you're buying like the heritage bird or whatever, do you have to worry about bird flu?
Uh, I, well, the bird flu is something that I mean, ask the farmer. If that farmer has bird flu, chances are their flocks have been quarantined and they have been terminated.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And
Yeah.
how many people does a 12 to 14 pound turkey feed?
They say, I'm trying to think. That's a good question. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Let's find out what they say. I think it's about a half a pound per person, but 12-pound turkey feeds. Let's see. If you're planning for leftovers, you might still be in the 8 to 12 person range. So think about that. Do you want to have leftovers? Some people do, some people don't. So it's almost about a pound per person. Um, and so, yeah, if you're planning for leftovers, 8 to 12 people. So it's about a pound per person. Because remember, there's a lot of bone in there.
All right, Liz, and I think that that is going to be the end of this. I think
Okay,
we're kind of done.
done.
What do you
Great. Well,
think?
thank you.
I'm not
I
seeing
think
any more questions.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everybody joining me today. We have our next class is on desserts. Um, and so I'm really looking forward to that one because one of my favorite desserts is there. Do remember that if you're going to join us, you need to make, if you're going to cook along with me, you need to make the dough for the star cake in advance. So that's the only caveat. But if you're just going to come along for the fun, I look forward to seeing you, and you can just join us at 2 o'clock in December. What is the date, Francis? Do you remember?
And it is December 19th.
There you go. All right. But
And
thank you all. Yes. And everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
and you too. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.